if you follow your passion, you go that path and you want to be a YouTube, you want people to actually watch you play a video game. Well, now we need business skills, right? We need marketing. We need a team, or you're going to video edit it yourself, right? You need to be creative and be like, how am I going to package this footage, right? So you could do that, but the skills that you have to stack on top of that, marketing, sales, maybe I sell a program now, how to play this game, right? You can grow that, but it's not one dimensional where I just post videos on YouTube and they watch it. Like, you can expand it, and that's where it becomes more creative.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up earlier, one of the guys that you were watching, and you said that he was on Rogan. I mean, not everybody, there's 50,000 podcasts out there now. Not everybody is getting $100 million. There's not everybody is getting $100 million to do it like Joe Rogan is. But he knew how to build the model, and he had all of this other experience in the past. I mean, his podcast is one of the best that I've ever seen because of how he runs it.
Well, I want to tell you, I think why his podcast is one of the best. Number one, he's real.
Yeah.
Number two, he's a martial artist. So what do martial artists learn at a early?
Absolutely.
They learn to be disciplined, right? He's been consistent. He's been doing this almost way before anyone else.
Oh, he was one of the first people that I ever heard had one.
So if you have discipline, you have consistency, you're true to yourself, right? In a lot of ways, he likes to toe the line, but like, he doesn't give a shit. Right. So he's just saying what he actually, and people resonate with that. And then here's the thing, not everybody in the world will like you, but the people who like you will really like you because you're part of their tribe. Right. So like, I like Joe Rogan.
His fans are dedicated. They absolutely love him. And, because he is the way he is, he's real, he's honest.
And honestly, I was very surprised when I started watching him. Like, he can have a conversation about many topics. He sounds educated about it.
And the great thing about his show is he will have people on from all walks of life and have conversations. And the big thing is he lets them talk. He will let Neil deGrasse Tyson explain physics, and not everyone in his audience will understand everything that they're hearing, but they're going to listen because it's engaging and it's educational. And then he'll go right from that, and he'll have comedians on that are just talking about doing stand-up. And because he also, and that's the other thing is, not only was he a martial artist, but he's also a stand-up comedian. And I can tell you, with that comes tons of failure. You fail so much that you have to learn how to be resilient and come back up. And he's probably, I'm sure that if you talk to him off the air, he would tell you about certain episodes of his show that he felt were horrible.
Yeah, sure.
And he's like, you know what? But I learned from it, and I learned what to do for the next time to make it better.
The consistency, the discipline, the resiliency.
That's it.
If you have those three, you'll be okay.
You'll be fine. Yeah.
All right. So let's switch gears one last time. We were both engaged at one point. Not to each other.
No, not to each other. No.
Do you have any regrets?
Regrets about that specifically?
Yeah.
No.
Because if I remember correctly, you were supposed to get married 11-11-11?
No, 10-10-10.
Okay.
You're close. 10-10-10. We were supposed to get married, and I am old school. So I wanted to make sure that I provided the best possible wedding. I wanted to do everything and make it a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I knew as that date was getting closer, I was not going to financially be able to do that. So I said, let's push it a few months. So we pushed it to the following July. And then the beginning of 2010, I just looked at my finances, and I looked at my practice and how it was going and how it was growing. And I had a negative attitude towards it. And I said, I don't see it getting better that fast that I'm going to have, $25,000, $30,000, $35,000 to throw at a wedding. So I said, let's just stay engaged and not have a date. They hadn't even sent out save the dates or anything like that. It wasn't like we're going to have to tell people, hey, you can do something that day because we're not getting married yet. It was, but
I had my dad do that.
She wanted to be married. I think I remember getting a text.
I was like, Dad, can you handle this for me? I go to the gym.
And I don't hold any fault to her. She knew what she wanted. I wanted something different. I was at the time looking into going into the military and maybe becoming a doctor for the military because I wanted to be able to do more. I didn't feel like I was doing enough with my life. I didn't feel like I had a purpose. And she was old school in her train of thought that her purpose, she just wanted to be married, have children, and raise a family. And that was what she valued. I had something that was different. So I don't regret ending things, because I really feel that had we gone through with it at some point, if we weren't divorced in 5 years, then one of us would have been very, very unhappy with how their life was, even if it was not on the surface, even if it was all just buried deep. And I actually felt that the person that would have been unhappy would have been me, because I knew how I am. I would sacrifice everything for a woman that I love. And I would have said, okay, fine. She didn't want to leave Rhode Island. She wanted to be as close to her family and parents as possible. I knew there was no future for me in Rhode Island, given the medical model that we talked about earlier. I knew there was no way that my vision of what I wanted to do as a doctor would work in Rhode Island at the time. So I knew I needed to get out. She didn't want to leave. So it was just better. I mean, you know, did my family sometimes sit there and say, she was a wonderful girl, you know.
She's very sweet.
She was very sweet, and my family loved her, and I think she really liked my family.
Did you meet her through my girlfriend at the time?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's all your fault. And then I do believe that because I got engaged first, that ruined that relationship with you.
Maybe. I don't know.
She was like, wait a minute, they've known each other for less than half of the time we have, and they're already engaged.
Her parents definitely want me to marry her. Yeah.
But I just feel like everything happens for a reason. And that ending the way it did, and then me being able to move, got me into a job that I actually love, with people that I love working with. It's allowed me to meet more people. I mean, I got to go, and I was in New York City every single night for a while before COVID hit and things started shutting down. I was going into New York all the time to do stand-up, and I was meeting some of the funniest people around. I got to perform at Dangerfields, which is a dream because of some of the comedians that have worked there in the past. So that's one of my favorite photos, is me with the Dangerfields background behind me, because at least I got to say I did that. I never would have been able to do that if I stayed in Rhode Island and ended up getting married. So I don't have any regrets on that. She's got a wonderful life now. She's been married for a while. I know I hear through the grapevine, because Rhode Island is small. She has 2 children. I actually had sent her a message saying, congratulations on your second kid. I wish you nothing but the best. Everything, and I don't think she cares to hear from me. But I wanted to let her know I'm sorry for the way things ended. I'm sorry for the way that I acted, because I really was kind of getting distant, because I could see that there was a problem and it wasn't going to go the way that I knew it needed to be a successful, healthy relationship. And rather than be another statistic and another person in a miserable relationship, I was like, I think it's better that this just doesn't work. I will fully admit I did not end it. I was like, let's just hold things off. She's the one who said, I don't want to keep doing this if we're not going to have an end date.
Well, from her perspective, it's almost like you're not into her. Right? I could see that. I could definitely see that.
And that's a hard looking back, and as I got older, and I realized years later, this is why I should have done things differently. I should have handled things differently. I did reach out at one point years later, and I sent an apology, and I was like, I'm just sorry for how I was at the end of our relationship. She never responded to it, but at least that made me feel a little bit better that I was able to say, I was young, I was stupid. I was getting married for the wrong reasons. I was getting married because I just felt that that's what I needed to do at that point.
Doesn't everybody? The most people?
I mean, a lot of people, listen, the divorce rate's at 50% in this country, so a lot of people do get married and then realize at some point that they're not supposed to be with that person.
Well, so
your parents are different. They've been together forever. I'm a child of divorce. My parents got divorced after having 3 kids. But they're both better off now. Like, they're both happier. They're still friends. They just knew that they weren't meant to be married. And, with my ex-fiance, we could have been friends. I think that had we gotten married and had a kid and then got divorced, I think that it would have been a lot worse. But I think that we weren't meant to be married.
So talk to me now about dating in your 40s as a man. Because we had Erica on the podcast. She was talking about dating in her 40s as a woman. Talk to me about...
So some of the things she said, 100% I agree with.
Such as?
Well, the problem more for her, like you guys talked about the fear that women have dating. And you said, as a man, you don't necessarily have that. Like, I don't have a fear that I'm going to get attacked by the woman that I go out with and I meet for the first time.
Or drugged?
Or drug. The drug, I do have, I mean, do I think it's going to happen? No. But in the back of my head, I'm like, well, it's a possibility.
Well, but you don't fear it.
But I don't fear it as much. Like, I don't do all the stuff that she said she did, like let, a whole bunch of people know where I'm going to be and stuff like that. There's one person that, there's one person that I was talking to that I did tell my friend, I may just let you know where I'm going to be because I think this one might be a loose cannon, and I don't know if she's going to stab me.
So in guy speak, that means she's hot enough for me to meet, but I'm not.
Well, there were a couple of red flags and some stuff. But you're right, exactly.
In guy speak,
we look at it as we're going to meet somebody if we're physically attracted to them. But I always say, like, you'll meet somebody that you're physically attracted to, but they have to have that personality for me to stay.
Sure.
And I say that, that doesn't make a man shallow because women do the same thing. You're going to naturally approach someone or you're going to accept them approaching you if you're physically attracted to them. Then if from an emotional or mental standpoint, they are not attractive because they're either materialistic or self-absorbed or narcissistic or whatever, or abusive, then you leave. Then you're like, I don't want to continue to do this. I used to liken it to, I remember getting a job once and, somebody was like, well, how did you get that job? Well, I got the job because I knew so-and-so, he got me the job, but I'm the one that kept it because if they could have let me go at any time, they kept me because I was a good worker. But yes, I did need that foot in the door. You get that foot in the door being physically attractive, especially more with women
on both
coming
sides.
to men. But it is both sides. But you have to be a good person to keep that individual. So the vibing is important. You need to have that energy. You need to have that connection, and it needs to be more than a physical connection. You cannot. As I've gotten older, I've realized the lust is not what's important. You need to have that mental connection with another individual. And it is so difficult to find it. Because the older we get, the more set in our ways we have. She had that great point where she talked about liking her, alone time. I have no idea. I have lived alone for so long. I don't know how I would handle living with someone. Not even talking about the fact that, okay, now I have to make room in a closet for someone's stuff. I have my routine in the morning. Now I would have to alter that because someone else is also getting up to go to work. So now I have to change things. I don't know that I can do that because I'm so set in my ways. It's very, very hard. But I think for the person that I connect with, I will, in some instances, revert back to the way I was, which is wanting to please her no matter what.
How's that work out?
Well, I mean, when I was younger, it didn't work because there's a fine line between wanting to always please the person you're with and coming off as desperate and coming off as needy. I'm not needy. I don't need that attention. I like being alone. I like, doing things on my own. I like having somebody that I really enjoy with me doing those things. I have no problem spending an entire night with somebody and not even talking to them. If you really have that connection, you can sit and watch a movie or television, and just having them next to you is enough. You don't have to always have that, conversation, but you need to be able to have a conversation with them at different points. When you go to dinner, you can't just sit there and eat soup because it's going to be really awkward to just hear all the time. But if all that's there is a physical connection, and you don't have that mental and emotional connection, you can't have a relationship. As I get older, I realize the only women that recognize that are older. Younger women don't get that because they still have their whole life in front of them.
They don't have the experience.
They don't have the experience. So they don't know what's important.
Well,
not all. Some.
Let me go back for a second. Well, what's important to them at that age? So we're probably talking about 18 to 29.
Yeah.
Right? It's
that
different.
Demographic is 100% different than 35 to 50.
Yeah, because then what you want in life is different.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I get that. But we'll talk about vibing for a second. So one of the things that I've definitely seen now, and like, listen, I'm a proponent for everybody living their best life.
Yes.
Right? Now, here's the thing. So when we talk about vibing, if you have somebody, in my case, like a man, right? If you have a man who's running shit, who's leading a business, who's being creative and stuff like that, at the end of the day, like, I want to vibe with somebody who's agreeable, who helped me on my journey. Like, they can have their journey. What I don't want is a boss babe, right? And now society tells women that they should be a boss babe, and that's fine. And that maybe they should run the relationship. I'm here to tell you, as a guy who's running shit all day, there's no way in my relationship that I'm going to have someone else run the relationship. Now, I'm not saying it can't be slightly even, but there's no way that my companion is going to be telling me what I do, when I do it, how I do it, right? Because it's not in my DNA. So for me, like, vibing with something like that, that's such a big turnoff for me, right? I like someone who's more, listen, they could just live a very simple life, right? And do their thing and whatever. I'll take care of everything else, right? That's vibing for me. Like,
and that's very common in some people, and it's not common in others. I look at it and say, do I want someone that is controlling? No one wants, whether you're the man or the woman in the relationship, you don't want someone controlling you and telling you what you can do, where you can go, who you can be with. You don't want that. That's an abusive relationship.
Okay, there you go.
I want someone that is driven, that has ambition. I don't want somebody that is just going to sit there and say, I don't want to do anything. I want you to make all the money and then I'm going to spend it. That to me is not a healthy relationship, because it's not 50-50. It needs to be, you need to both put something into the relationship. Now,
do you think any relationship is 50-50 though?
I think there are some. Because you do see people that recognize this comes off, they recognize their role. And I don't mean it that everyone has a specific role, but they recognize their role in individual situations.
Well, everyone plays a part in different relationships. Right. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I don't, because there are relationships that work where the one person does nothing all day but look good. And those are those trophy relationships. And those happen on both sides, because you have some of those boss women that you talk about that are super type A that want a super hot young guy that just looks good for them. And listen, if that's what they both want,
then good for them.
Then good for them.
And that's what
I don't. I need someone that I can have, like I said, I can have that deep conversation with, that understands loyalty. Because my problem is, if I'm with someone that only looks for a superficial aspect, whether it be appearance or financially, I know how I am. I'm going to be incredibly paranoid that they're always looking for something better. And
you said you found that.
I had been, yeah. I was with someone who flat out told me I didn't make enough money. They heard doctor, they thought a lot of money, so we went out on a few dates. She realized I did not have the money that she was looking for.
You didn't pick her up in the Lambo?
Nope, I was in the shop. And flat out said, listen, my last boyfriend made $300,000+ a year. I'm looking for FU money. I want someone that is in the 7 figures all the time, that I can have this wonderful life. I don't care what he looks like. I don't care how old he is. That's what I want.
Well,
I respected that, because at least she was honest. It only cost me 3 dates and by the way, wouldn't eat at certain restaurants if they weren't high end enough. That was my first clue. I was like, this is not normal. And I respect that at least she knew what she wanted. And listen, I know her. I know that she got what she wanted. And she's very, very wealthy, has a huge giant ring on her finger, has kids, but I know what she wanted out of life. And this guy has to know it as well, because she's significantly younger than he is, significantly more attractive than he should ever be able to get. not that that's the most important thing, but I respect that more than the one who, you know, is married to someone that has more money than I do, but I know from conversations she really wasn't that interested, but she pretends that she is. And he has no idea that if he didn't have the money he had, she probably would have left a long time ago. That I don't respect. And unfortunately, that happens a lot more often. And being a doctor, you know, like on these dating apps and stuff like that, I have seen it time and time again, where the second they find that out, I see their interest level spike. Then when they ask me, you know, what specialty am I in? Or they start saying, oh, where have you traveled? What have you done? What have you done? And they start to get the notion that I'm not super wealthy. I see their interest wane, and then they just disappear.
Do you think dating apps have really changed the way we think about relationships? Number one, I mean, if there is, just by definition, dating apps, especially during COVID, like the abundance of people who could be on there is endless.
Yeah.
Right. So there's never like, I could do better. I could do better. I could do better. Right.
If you're sitting there swiping all day left and right,
yeah.
I mean, you're basically compiling a list of possibilities, and then you're going to start vetting some of them. Now, what I've seen, and I feel bad for the women on these apps that are genuinely looking for a connection, because I know, unfortunately, that there are so many guys that are just out there to just get laid, and they're swiping on everyone, and they're hoping that somebody is going to be, okay, yeah, sure, you can come on over tonight. Now, in my 20s, yeah, that's what I you know, if somebody said that they wanted to sleep with me on the first date, sure. I knew in my head I was never going to invite them over. I would never invite them to meet my family, because I knew the type of person that they were. But I look at it as saying, now I look at it and say, well, how many other people have you done that with? Like realistically, I know I'm not super special. So if you're sending me nude photos that I didn't even ask for, that means you have these things on your phone and you're just sending them out to any guy. And I feel bad for women, because women have guys that are typically a lot more guys that are looking for one thing. On my end, a lot of the women that I see on these apps, a lot of the profiles, I feel sorry for the ones that really do want a good relationship, because for every one of them on these apps, you have a whole bunch of just social media fishers. They just want more followers, more likes on their photos and things like that.
So basically what you're saying is that there's actually people on dating apps now that the only reason they're on the dating app is to get followers on the Instagram.
Because then they can get money. And right. I'll look at their, so what I'll do is, if they don't even have a profile, if they just have their Insta, or they'll do something stupid. They'll say, oh, I'm never on here, so follow me on Instagram. And then I'll go on their Instagram, and they'll have, 15, 20,000 followers. And I'll be like, all right, if they're only following like 100 something people. And I'm like, all right, they just want their followers. I'm going to look at their page. And if I get the impression, like a lot of times what I'll do is I might follow them for a little while. I'll send them a message. Hey, saw you on such and such an app. You said to follow this.
Do you know Instagram is the number one dating app?
Probably.
I don't do it.
I've a couple of people off of it, but the thing is some of them, they'll never even bother reading my message. And I'm going week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks out. I'm like, you know what? Unfollow.
Yeah.
Like, you clearly were just looking for that follower. You had no intention of actually having a conversation with anyone that you met off of those apps. I've seen some women that I know have boyfriends that are still on those apps, and it's just to get followers.
And I think that's one of the big differences with like Erica. Like, she said she didn't use dating apps, but like there's not really dudes doing that. Like, I'm sure there's dudes trying to get followers.
There are some, but most of them are just they're not looking for a relationship. In my opinion, talking to women, because I have met some off of dating apps, and I do ask them. I'll say, what has your experience been? They'll ask me, what has your experience been? And I'm always honest with them. I'm telling them. I mean, over COVID, I lost track of how many prostitutes were on, because I would match with some people that initially just had normal looking photos. And then the second you match with them, they would send me pricing lists. They would say, hey, listen, I'll come over for this much. You want nude videos also for this much.
It's really genius, by the way.
Well, because they would tell me, one flat out said, listen, because of COVID, strip clubs were closed. So I need to make money.
Yeah.
So I'll do this. I'll send you private videos. Here's my Venmo. If you want, live video chats, here's my Venmo. I'm not looking down on them, but I was like, oh, there's another one I matched with, but she really didn't want.
But that would disqualify her from dating you.
And then,
Yeah, and I'm not saying this for everybody.
I'm not, and the thing is it's weird because I have dated people that have OnlyFans and stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't know, like I
could never do that.
I don't know that. I don't.
No, I think it's as far as for me. We talk about vibing. Like, there'd be no chance I would date anybody with an OnlyFans. Personal preference, and the preference is what makes the world go around. But also, like, if your Instagram is all you just in like thong bikinis and like holding your boobs, I'm also not dating you seriously.
Yeah,
right? That's just not my preference. Yeah. So when we talk about the vibing, but yeah, it's like a jungle out there. And then, but here's the thing: in younger generations coming up, I don't think they know how to flirt in person.
And the other thing is,
which gives us an advantage.
It's hard to. I always have to worry. I mean, I worry about flirting in person because I don't want to come off as aggressive, because now you have this whole new societal approach to, is it okay for me to tell you that I think that you look attractive? Or am I crossing a boundary?
Have you heard?
So I step back and I wait for women to approach me, which most won't.
Well, have you heard I don't know if it's a joke or a statement, whatever. If a hot guy tells a woman she's pretty, it's a compliment. If an ugly guy tells a girl she's pretty, they call the cops.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that.
I mean,
they used to say, she's not a stalker if she's hot, like things like that. Like, I mean, you hear all those things, which are pushing everything backwards. They used to have, remember the Saturday Night Live skit, and it was Tom Brady, and he was going around the office and he was blatantly sexually harassing every woman in the office, and they loved it. And then when they had, I forgot who, I think it was Horatio Sands, and he would do the exact same compliment, and then all of a sudden he's getting walked out of the office. Yeah. But yes, there is that joke about that.
But do you think that's changed dating now because of the?
I don't know. I don't go out there enough. I'm not out there dating enough.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, working as much as I work, it's very hard for me to meet people. Apps are the only real way. I'm not going to go, because here's the thing. I went out on a date once. This was a while ago, and someone set me up with it, and it was horrible. And it was horrible because I was exhausted. So I was yawning. I was tired.
You got to be on.
And she then told her friend that was the worst date I've ever been on. Now, in my defense, she wasn't extremely interesting either. She really didn't have that energy up either. But it's just so tough to meet people. I can't do it during the week. I'm exhausted at the end of the workday. I just want to go home, make dinner, watch some TV, go to bed, and then get up, rinse, repeat, and do the whole thing again. On the weekends is when I can. As we get older, the pool of available women is getting shallower and shallower. I don't mean that shallow in a societal, I mean just a smaller amount of women. A lot of them are divorced. At my age, I see a lot of women that are either divorced or they never got married. They may have one or two kids. They don't want any more, which now gives me another dilemma, because I do want to have a kid. Now, yes, biologically, can I still have kids into my 70s? Sure. But a woman of child-rearing age, their early 30s, is not going to want to be with me at 70 years old. So my window of, do I succumb to just being a step-parent with someone that doesn't ever want to have any kids? Do I do that? Or do I continue to try to look? But that won't
make you happy.
But that might not.
It's the same reason why you didn't
get. Do I continue to look at, early to mid 30-year-old women, but understand that they have to be cool with having someone that's, at the 10-year difference at some point.
Well, and but women usually date up. Women usually date up.
You hope, but it's very hard for me to find, and then the thing is again, because I'm not going to these clubs, I'm not going out to restaurants, I'm only meeting them on the apps. So I have to hope that someone has that window on their preferences, that they're willing to date someone that is in my age group, even though they're in this age group. The other thing is distance. I can't tell you how many women I've had conversations with that literally don't want to put effort in because I live further away. And I'm like, okay, I want you to, oh, well, you're 40 minutes away. Like, okay, big deal. I don't mind driving 40 minutes to see you, but she didn't want to drive 40 minutes to see me. So now, if I had a whole bunch of money, if I was really in shape, if I was really attractive, would she do that? Maybe. I don't know. But my thing is, if all you're going to look at are men that live in your general vicinity, you probably would have already found the guy that you're supposed to be with.
Well, back in the day, you
had no choice. You had to.
Yeah, if you lived in a village,
right?
You dated.
But I live far away from everybody because I live in a almost like a farm area, because that's all I could afford.
Do you find that? And I said about the younger generation, but like maybe now every generation. Do you find that women nowadays don't know how to flirt like they did back when we were in our 20s? I feel like it's totally different.
I think that it is a lot different.
You think it's because society? You think it's because the apps? You think it's because men are creepier now?
I don't think that guys are creepier now.
They're definitely creepier.
I think that they're doing the same things that are now perceived more as creepy because now women have taken a little bit more control over what they'll allow a guy to say and do.
Which I think they should, but I'm talking about now.
I agree. So now they'll say that's creepy, whereas before they would say, "Oh, he's just being cute or flirtatious." Again, look at the 1950s. Look at what was allowed by a man to try to court a woman at that point. What he was allowed to say or do versus what they can say or do now. They're not allowed to do a lot now that they used to be. I'm not saying allowed, but it was accepted. So now if you take someone that still looks at that as normal and tries to do it now they're looked at as creepy. I mean, you see how society is going back in time and canceling things that were never deemed inappropriate before. Baby, It's Cold Outside, the Dean Martin song. Now all of a sudden it's got a sexually abusive tone to it. It really isn't when you look at other songs that are on the radio now that are deemed okay and appropriate. So I think that the men that are doing the things that are no longer deemed socially acceptable are now being looked at as creepy. Do I think that there's also guys that are just straight up creepy? Hell yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of girls who watch this who just get dick pictures all day.
And that, right? I don't understand that. I have never sent one. But I would never send one. But this is what I'm
saying. So they're getting that all day. So it's like, fuck, another one?
You know what's crazy about that is I want to meet one person who has done that and it worked.
Like that looks delicious.
I want to be like, I want to be both a guy and a girl. Like I want to know, because the guy that's sending, he's sending it to everybody. Yeah. And I want to be like, has it ever worked for you that a girl was like, I don't really want to be with him. Oh, no, never mind. Yeah. And for a woman, it's like, oh, is that going to be the difference maker? I've never met anybody that it was. That is one of the creepiest things that has ever, and I think that I want to believe it came to fruition as just a guy doing it to one of his buddies.
I can see that.
Hey, I'm going to send you this picture,
like, oops,
and that's what it is.
Send it to the wrong person.
And then the guy ends up, I mean.
That's what I'm saying, because now with the internet, like dudes can just hit women up all the time.
All day, every day.
With the most like ridiculous stuff. Like obviously you probably talk to women, like the stuff that men say to women is like over the top, like not appropriate or but then they're seeing that all the time. So now when they see Matt, a normal dude, they're already on edge.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe we need Erica here to explain that.
I think you might have a point there because I don't do any of that. And I sometimes get the impression that if I was a little bit more aggressive, that maybe that would get more of a response. But I can't do that. I send messages. If you read through the messages that I've sent to people on the initial visit, like the initial approach, it would be, hey, I saw you on this dating app. Obviously, I'm assuming you're single. I'd love to talk to you a little bit. And then if we mesh well, maybe we can meet up for a coffee or a dinner or something like that. And then I get nothing.
But the issue with that is, I don't know if you know this.
All right.
There's 30 other dudes who sent them a message that day.
Right. And so, that's why they may not even be looking at me. And that's why, again, it falls into, well, if you'd be on the app more and not just shoot everybody to your Instagram, maybe we could actually have a conversation. And it's just, I mean.
So what would be an ideal girl for you? Now, here's the thing. People get upset when other people have preferences. Like, that's life. You get to choose, right?
It is.
I'm not 6'5".
I've had women tell me, literally, we've had great conversations, and then all of a sudden they throw in, how tall are you? And I'm like, I'm 5'9", and then that's it. It just dies. And I'm like, you're 5'1". Like, why? You could wear 6-inch heels, and I'm still taller than you. You're still going to have that difference. Yeah. We're going to look good. But you want somebody that's 6'5". I know now, I have a friend of mine, she's 6 feet tall, and she's a comedian. She's great. And she used to do a whole big thing about how pissed off she used to get at those women. She was like, stay in your lane, because you can get all these guys that will never date me because I'm 6 feet tall. You can get all these great guys that are 5'10", 5'9", 5'8", whatever. Let me have the guy that's 6'5", because my pool of available guys is so much smaller than yours, and you're going for the guys that I want. And I get it. But you're right. People have preference. You can't deny them that.
But now, again, and so this is what I'm saying, right? Like, for me, one of the big things, if I'm working all day and if I'm making decisions, like I want to come home to a peaceful, supportive household, right? I don't want that aggressive woman. That's just not what my preference is, right? Listen, she can be aggressive in other areas, but when it comes to our relationship together, we're a cohesive unit, right? Whatever, but like I don't want that, for me, that boss babe that's going to be demanding. Like that's after a whole day, like we're not doing this. And I can, if I sense that in the beginning of like courtship, we're good.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
That's a preference. But by all means, go be a boss babe in life. Right. That's fine. But what would be your ideal woman?
Supportive. Number one, they have to be supportive. They have to understand, the job that I have, the life that I have, be supportive of, the decisions that I make, just because I'm always supportive in that sense as well. Loyalty is a big thing for me, and honesty. I really, really need somebody that's going to, if they tell me something, I want it to be the truth. I don't want to have to worry that you're lying. Demanding, again, like I said, as long as they're not telling you who you can hang out with, who you can, what you can do, where you can go, I have no problem with them being, a little bit, not bossy, but just assertive. But they have to also be driven. Like, I need somebody that isn't just going to sit around and do nothing. I want them to have a goal. I want them to have desires and things that they want to accomplish.
Like living their life, you living your life, but coming together.
Well, exactly. A woman can still be independent without being needy. I want somebody that's independent. I want someone that has their life put together, and that wants me a part of it, because it makes it better and it provides something that they weren't getting. But I don't want someone that is 100% dependent on me, because then now I'm going to feel if I falter, now things are screwed. So what ends up happening is I would be like, all right, well, I'm going to work twice as hard. I'll work as many hours as I can. I'll try to figure this out so that I can give them everything that they need, because they're not doing any of it for themselves.
Yeah, but you know what will happen then? If you did that, they'd leave you.
Oh, yeah, because I would be working all the time and I wouldn't be providing any attention.
Exactly.
And so that's the thing. So that's why they need to be driven. They need to have desires and goals in mind. They need to be family. I want them to have that personality that they can jump right into my family and be a part of it, that they don't feel like they're an outsider. Because my family is not going to make them feel like an outsider, but if they don't have that desire to be like, I look for someone and I look at their whole family as well, because I want to say,
what are you going into?
I don't want to be the type of guy that's like, oh, I don't want to go see my girlfriend's family today. I want to be like, oh, I'm going to go see them and they're a lot of fun and we enjoy each other's company. I want to be able to say, yeah, I called up, her father-in-law and was like, hey, I got tickets to a game. We're going to go see, a baseball game or whatever. And I want to be able to do that. They need to have the same, sense of humor is a big thing, because I make a lot of jokes throughout the day. Almost everything that I say is a joke, or has some humor involved in it. If I have to be serious, I'll be serious. But everything that I say, I want to make them laugh. I want to make them smile. If they don't have the same sense of humor that I do, and they find things that I say not funny, that's going to ultimately cause a problem, because I'll say something that inadvertently makes them upset, and I don't want to ever do that. And I tell crowds a lot, comedians don't want to offend you. No one gets up on stage and wants to say something that makes you upset. We say something that we think is funny, and we think someone else might also find it funny. If you get offended by it, that wasn't our intention. I don't ever want to have to feel like that at home. I don't ever want to have to be like, I got to walk on eggshells and I can't make a joke while we're watching this movie because she might get upset. I want to know that she's going to laugh at it.
Yeah, I think when you have a relationship, you're together, you want to recharge, both of you.
Yeah.
And I think if there's that tension, you can't recharge. Right. And I think that's where you need to be able to vibe with that person. I think one of the best things about a relationship like that is being able to share your successes with somebody.
Yes.
Right? Because they're the only people that see you outside, in this case, like the public eye.
Right.
Right? It's just you two. So
that's the person you need to be able to be your absolute most real with. We all have to have a public persona, because, we're in our jobs. We have to keep certain opinions to ourselves, especially about current events and things like that. But then you need to be able to go home and vent about your family or your coworkers or something that you saw on the news and not feel judged, not feel like,
well, in the same token,
be quiet.
It's your opinion, right?
It's your opinion.
You're entitled to it. Listen, we can have difference of opinions. That doesn't mean I don't have to like you, or I don't have to hate you, rather. You know what I'm saying? It's cool.
You can have some difference of opinions, but it does.
I'm just talking about in general.
Right.
Yeah.
But there does have to be certain similarities with certain things. Like, you need to have fundamentally the same morals and ethics as your partner, because you need to, for example, if one person in the relationship is super, super left and the other one is super, super right, well, they're going to have a big difference of opinion when it comes to how they raise their children. That needs to be on the same page. So there have been people that I've, dated in the past, and it's like, okay, you know what? You are so far to one side. I can't deal with extreme. I don't like anyone that's extremist, whether they're extreme right or extreme left. I can't. They have to have some semblance of compromise. But with certain aspects of that relationship, you have to 100% be on the same page. You could have difference of opinions on music or movies. I mean, I see my mother and stepfather. They don't like the same types of movies. He'll watch the action movies and stuff like that. She loves, Downton Abbey and stuff like that. That's totally fine. But their morals and their ethics and their integrity is on the same page. That's what makes their relationship work. I need somebody that has to be on the same page with me when it comes to, if we get to raise a child together, we need to be on the same page with how to discipline them, how to educate them.
On a team.
So that sort of stuff, you have to have the same thing. But yes, opposites attract. There are certain people. I mean, I've been interested in people that absolutely hated the music that I listened to. They only liked country. I could take or leave country. I love hard rock. I love classic rock. Okay, that's fine. You know what? We won't ever go to concerts together. It's not that big of a deal. I go to concerts by myself all the time.
You wouldn't go to a Billy Ray Cyrus concert?
Here's the thing. I probably would.
Yeah, right.
I probably would, because I like the atmosphere, and I would say, you know what? I'll give everything a chance.
You probably dig Achy Breaky Heart.
When it came out, absolutely I did.
Right?
I have no problem expanding my horizons. That's why one of the things that I want to do with the podcast that I'm going to be starting, which is the April-November podcast, hopefully in the coming months.
I'm charging you for that.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Is the difference between generations, and introducing, my best friend, who is, I guess, a different the next generation under me, introducing to different music that they've never heard. and saying, what do you think of this? Because I think you should expand your horizons. I try to listen to today's music, at work, they'll play, more like today's hits and stuff like that. So I'll listen to a lot of it, but I still find my preference is going to be more for Metallica, and then classic rock like Hendrix and Zeppelin and things like that. But I'm still willing to open myself up to those. And I think that builds a better relationship when you do have those differences. And I can say, hey, you know what? Okay, fine. Right now, Seagal is a giant joke, but you got to watch the early Steven Seagal movies because they're amazing. And they're the reason I got into martial arts in the first place. You have to watch those.
All right, so I ended with this. So someone's watching this podcast. They know their life is not where they want it to be. Maybe they're injured. Maybe they're down on themselves. Like from your knowledge as a martial artist, as a chiropractor, as a person who heals other people, what advice can you look at the camera? What advice do you give them to start changing their lives?
Recognize that you need to change it. That was something that I didn't think I needed to for a long time. Recognize that you need to change it. Reach out to people that have more knowledge in different areas than you do. It's okay to not know something. Talk to people who have aspects of their life that you want to emulate. It doesn't mean you're envious or jealous. It just says, hey, how do you do this? How do you fit going to the gym every day to be healthier? How are you doing this? How are you eating so healthy? I reached out to a friend of mine from high school. He never responded. But I was just like, hey man, I know we're in the same age. How are you in such, what are you doing to have a six-pack?
You didn't message me?
No, I didn't. You weren't posting your pictures at the time. Now you are. Now you're posting all your photos with you had a Viking sword at one point.
I do a lot of things. It was a real book cover.
Yeah, and then you had one podcast where you dressed like a Venezuelan dictator. I didn't know.
Which one was that?
I don't know. One of the early ones. You had like all these medals or something. I don't know what it was. But I would just tell people, once you recognize that you want to change, just do it. Just take the step and do it. I knew I needed to start going to the gym. I knew I was exhausted at the end of the day after work. I knew there was no way that was going to happen. So I said, all right, get your ass up early. So I started getting up a little earlier. Then I started getting up a little earlier because I would be at the gym and I'd say, you know what? I didn't get enough in. I got to get here a little earlier. Let me get here another half an hour
and
earlier.
It becomes addicting.
And then it became addicting to where I never went to bed at 10:30, 11 o'clock before. Never. I would be up until 12 or 1 o'clock every single night because I would be at the clubs doing comedy in New York till midnight. And then I'd drive home an hour, go to bed at 1, get up and go to work the next day. Then I started going to the gym at 4:30 in the morning, getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the gym. And I said, well, I need to get enough night's sleep. So I'm going to have to start going to bed at 10:30.
So you stopped making concessions.
And I started doing it. And I was like, you know what? The greatest thing in the world is streaming television. I don't need to be up late anymore. I can watch this tomorrow. And that's what I started doing.
So just take action.
And learning new things. If something interests you, like we said, YouTube, you can learn so many things watching YouTube. I listen to podcasts. I listen to, most of the podcasts I listen to are comedy podcasts, but I'll go on YouTube and I'll learn new things. I taught myself chess and love playing. I absolutely love it. And I'll watch videos learning new things. Engineering videos. I mean, learning how to build things. I bought my house in 2019. I had to kind of teach myself how to fix things around my house that I didn't already know. So I looked them up online. I mean, if you want to change, you just need to do it. What's that? Be the change in you, or I don't remember what that phrase.
Well, here's one of the things. From my metaphysical learnings, is that a word? But basically, Bashar would say, like, life's like a mirror. So, like, what you see in the mirror, right? You don't go up to the mirror who's frowning and try to change the frown. You change it in yourself first, and then your outside reality will change it, right? So the change is within you first, and then your whole reality will change.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. So thank you for this podcast. We went over 2.5 hours. I will tell you,
I'll edit it down to 20 minutes.
The outfit that you were referring to, my buddy said I looked like I was in a Russian ballet.
Okay.
Yeah. But I do love the Venezuelan dictator. But thank you for this.
This was fun.
I knew you'd be long-winded, and I was not let down. But a lot of good information, and I wish you a good end of years.
You too. All right.
Hello, my name is Dr. Marc Bochner. Don't forget to check out my new book, Pug Learns to Believe. Hey guys, Dr. Marc here. Now I know a lot of you want to know how we get all these amazing results with our clients, and it comes down to 3 things. The first is fun fitness classes that burn a lot of calories. 2 is giving you an accountability coach to make sure you stay on track and get the best results. And 3 is the nutrition. Included in the nutrition is our food supplements. So we pair with Prestige Labs because I feel they're the best, they have integrity, and they get great results. These are actually the supplements that I take as well. Here's the awesome part. By clicking the link below, you can save 40% off the retail price. So you need that link to actually save 40%. If you just go to the normal site without my link, you're paying full price, okay? So these are the supplements my clients use. If you are interested, definitely click the link below and it'll tell you all about them.